I've had bugs which have broken production, costing weeks and even months to figure out, destroying my self-confidence, questioning why the hell did I get into software engineering, and worst of all, made me feel like I was stuck, getting nowhere, going around in circles, feeling like I was never going to be able to solve the issue that I was having. And worst of all, this was way before the AI coding revolution. And today I'm going to be sharing with you the three biggest software engineering bugs that I've faced in my career and how I got through them and how I was able to solve them. So let's start off with the first one. So the very first one that I'm going to be talking about today was actually at my very first full-time engineering job back in 2018/2019, because I was there around about 12 months during that time. And I was given the project of developing a mobile app to control diesel control panels remotely via SMS. So this was actually a really fun project, which I really enjoyed. But the biggest challenge and the biggest issue and bug that I had to fix during this project was that I needed to be able to retrieve the SMS messages internally in every single Android device that was on the market, because everybody has different versions and different Android devices out there on the market, whether you're using a Samsung phone, a Huawei, Motorola, and or etc., with all these different Android devices out there. And there are different methods there's different methods or ways to be able to obtain the SMS messages on the devices. So it's not really a one size fits all methodology in terms of the implementation of being able to retrieve the messages on these different devices, because it would work for example it would work on my phone, but it wouldn't work on my manager's phone, or it would work on another colleague's phone, but then it wouldn't work for me. So can you imagine, like, trying to debug this SMS issue where it works on one device but it doesn't work on a whole bunch of other devices? And the worst of all, when I was working on this project, was that sometimes the source code would work for a while, where I was able to retrieve the SMS messages from a particular device, but then 3 weeks later it would stop working. Can you imagine the frustration of that, especially when you're about to ship it out to production? That issue drove me completely insane for I think it was around about 2 months that issue drove me completely insane, because we've always had that saying of like, oh, it works on my device, but how come it's not working on your device and all that. So after extensive research of why this bug was occurring on all these different devices, it turns out there was a major security issue that was also restricting it on different devices. So it took many iterations of getting the source code correct, of being able to implement the correct way to retrieve the SMS messages on all these different Android devices, so it all works under one guideline, instead of like a particular way for a particular device and not working on another Android device. So that was very challenging at the start, and that was also at my first full-time engineering job back in 2018/2019. And I was able to successfully ship out that app in the end. It was really challenging getting that SMS feature working on all those different Android devices out there on the market. The second major bug and issue that I faced in my career was this project involving writing firmware code to communicate with the Wi-Fi module. Now you might be thinking, surely that should be easy enough. You just get the microcontroller to communicating with the Wi-Fi module, and that's it, right? Surely it should be easy enough, right? Well, unfortunately, when there's other electronics on the PCB board, and the PCB board is that complex that there are pages of designs of it, it's actually a lot harder than you think. So what was really challenging about this project was that we needed to get the microcontroller communicating with the Wi-Fi board, and in order to successfully get the two talking with each other, was that we needed the Wi-Fi module booting up at the right power wave time. So in firmware engineering, there's like a specific boot sequence and a specific power up time and a specific waveform during the power up time that we need precisely correctly in order for the microcontroller to be communicating with the Wi-Fi board correctly. And this was like literally so challenging that literally I couldn't just figure it out on my own, because I was literally at the start I was working on my own, trying to figure out why the hell the microcontroller didn't want to talk with the Wi-Fi module. And it turns out at the end, do you know what the actual problem was? It turns out it wasn't my source code. It wasn't my source code. The actual problem was the design was wrong. Can you believe that? So I spent around about 8 months, along with somebody else that was helping me later down the line that we hired, which was a senior engineer. So I give credit to her for her help in this as well. So me and her actually discovered was that the actual design of the PCB board didn't support the actual power up requirements for the microcontroller to be able to communicate with the Wi-Fi module correctly. So it wasn't my source code the entire time. It was the lead engineer's PCB design that was actually blocking me the entire time. So I was actually very relieved that it actually wasn't my source code that was not working. It was actually somebody else's design that I was trying to utilize to implement my code in that was causing it not to work at all. It drove me crazy for around about 8 months. The person I was working with spent a dedicated 2 months trying to figure out why the board was not working and how we were stripping away pieces by piece of like the PCB, trying to figure out, trying to pinpoint what was working, what wasn't working, and all that. But it turns out it wasn't a code issue; it was a hardware design fault. So I was very relieved that it wasn't a source code issue that I was facing. It was the lead design engineer made a mistake and didn't want to accept full responsibility for it. And the third major bugs and issues that I faced in my career was this project involving porting firmware Bluetooth code from one project to another. Now you might be thinking, oh, you're just porting existing Bluetooth firmware code from one product to another. How hard can it be? Well, it turns out when you're porting existing firmware code from one embedded product to another, there are different design mechanisms and different layouts and different pin out considerations that we need to take into consideration when we're porting from one embedded product to another. And when I needed to make this new embedded product communicate with a mobile app as well. So the reason why it was challenging to port this existing Bluetooth firmware code from one product to another was because that the original Bluetooth connectivity stack, I think it was around about 2,000 or 3,000 lines big, the original source code that I was working on and all that. And the reason why it was so challenging was because it was literally spaghetti code, and it was so easy to break, because if you delete one thing, it would just make another thing not work. So you would delete one thing, another thing would break. You would change one thing here, it would break 3 different things, and there were just so many so many other files that were required in order to make the Bluetooth connectivity stack be working correctly. Because if you made one minor change, as I was just saying, everything would just break or it just wouldn't compile, and you'd be thinking like, how is this file relevant for the Bluetooth connectivity? You would not include it, and then the whole thing would break, and then you would include it, and then it would still somehow work, and it was so challenging. Going through all the spaghetti code, and worst of all, it wasn't documented as well. Trying to figure out, trying to make this Bluetooth connectivity code work while it's spaghetti code. It's undocumented. Everything's breaking when you try and modify it and everything. It was actually, I think it took me around about 5 weeks to get it communicating, with the mobile app at the end, because the Bluetooth connectivity stack on the firmware side was just in such a mess, and actually nobody else on the team actually wanted to touch it because it was just so easy to break and just that complex and all that. But in the end, I was able to find, the particular files all the particular files that I needed in order to make that Bluetooth connectivity firmware code to be able to work properly, and also to be able to communicate with Android and iOS devices in the end. But it took weeks to figure out, and I never want anybody to be working. I don't wish anybody to be working on like spaghetti code that's undocumented and that doesn't make any sense, and and it's just. A complete mess that's a software engineer's worst nightmare in the end. So those are the three biggest software engineering bugs and issues that I've faced in my career, and how I had to solve them way before the AI coding revolution, where I literally had to solve them by looking at each line of code line by line, using breakpoints, printout statements, logic analyzers, oscilloscopes, which I hate using oscilloscopes because I still don't get how to read the waveforms and all that shit and all that. But yeah, before AI, debugging firmware issues was a lot harder back then, and but with the latest developments of AI and coding agents and all that, and and the latest tools which are out available in 2026, it does make things a lot easier. But honestly, I don't want to do any SPI or I2C firmware development ever again in my career because I hate that part of firmware development. But well, the reason why I'm telling you these major bugs and issues that I faced in my career is because it's allowed me to develop the engineering principles of going back to the fundamentals and understanding the fundamentals of how do I solve engineering problems from a first basis points principle when I'm working with issues, especially today, in today's era of AI, especially in this era of AI coding and AI agents and all that. You still need to have that engineering mindset and understanding of how everything's been put together and all that, and how everything's broken down and understood piece by piece in order to actually understand what's happening in your software solution and all that. Just in case in case there are any other bugs or issues that come up in your project, that you're able to understand what's happening where, and we're able to quickly rectify the problem. Even if we get AI to help assist it to make things a lot easier and a lot more quicker in the end as well. So those are the reasons why I'm telling you. That's the way I'm telling you the stories of the three major software engineering bugs and issues that I've faced in my career and all that, because it's also allowed me to develop the mindsets of okay, yes, this problem is challenging, but we're going to get through it and be able to solve it. It's allowed me to develop resilience, grit, problem solving, especially when I'm faced with challenging bugs, especially when I've had to solve it either on my own or within a team environment as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed my three separate stories of the three biggest bugs that I faced in my software engineering career. And most importantly, if you're a founder and if you're looking for someone to help you develop your mobile app from the ground up, whether you're going to do it through using an AI coding tool like Base44, Balls or Lovable, or where you want to develop your app from the ground up, which I also do as well, I can help you out with that. What I would invite you to do is to click on the link below to book in a free call with me to discuss how I can personally help you out and bring your app idea to life in the shortest amount of time possible. The link is in the description below. Again, thank you for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed my stories today, and if you liked it, smash the like button down below. I'm going to be going away for a while. It's currently winter here in Melbourne, Australia, so I'm going to be taking a break from YouTube for in about 2-3 weeks. So I look forward to seeing you back in a few weeks' time.